Modi government's meek surrender has exposed their tall claims of making India a Vishwaguru. Modi's 56-inch chest has shattered against the wall of the state of Qatar. Vishwaguru hasn't been able to get them released for over a year. Vishwaguru has been totally exposed by a tiny Arab country which has imprisoned 8 Indian Navy veterans. We are Vishwaguru only in name. Modi has boasted how much Islamic countries love him, and now our Indian Navy personnel are facing death row. How did our friendly relations with a once friendly nation go so bad and our diplomatic might so ineffective beyond sound bites? Either the Modi government's diplomatic clout is astonishing low, or it just doesn't care. Godi media will not discuss this because it dents Vishwaguru's image. What good is G20 presidency and Vishwaguru stuff if Indians can be targeted so easily while abroad? Prime Minister Modi was told that Qatar is his second home, no? Viewer, these were the kinds of brainless, brain-dead taunts emanating from India's famously fake liberal ecosystem, fully enjoying India's international discomfiture over the arrest and subsequent death sentence to 8 Indian Navy veterans on charges of spying while professionally employed in Qatar. Hundreds of tweets, scores of social media posts, multiple YouTube videos sneering and jeering at the Indian government for allegedly failing to secure the release of the Indian prisoners in Qatar. Well, after being sentenced to death a few months ago, all 8 men were released today, completely released, and most of them are already back in India. Their freedom secured in total with no sword hanging over their heads. But you won't hear the fake liberal ecosystem say anything at all today. They will be deafeningly silent, and it always makes me wonder how bloodless, how soulless, how totally devoid of honor their methodology really is. First off, the monumental stupidity and the idiocy of using a sensitive issue like international espionage allegations and a death sentence to boot to feed your frustration-drenched pet peeve against the Modi government. This ecosystem will argue that this is what is called speaking truth to power and holding the government accountable. Well, what does Godi media like me know, except that accountability is not the impulse that drives this carnival of silly, jeering folks about Vishwaguru. It is singularly to score a few shots at the Narendra Modi government and specifically Modi himself. Point number 2, viewer, is that if this ecosystem is happy to bash the Modi government for not securing so far the release of the Indian prisoners, by that measure, these same people should be applauding the government today, no? I'm not saying they should. I myself think it's a big win for India as a whole. But by making this all about Modi alone, you'll hear nothing but pin drop silence from this soulless Sena today. Even the eloquent Shashi Tharoor, who had rightly asked what the government was doing to secure the release, today credits very cleverly the silent behind-the-scenes teams. No mention of government or Modi. This is pettiness of an epic, almost embarrassing kind, and only establishes that this whole campaign of taunts over the last 1.5 years was not really as interested in the well-being and safety of the Indian prisoners as much as it was about how hopefully helpless it made the Modi government and Narendra Modi look. This fake liberal ecosystem has totally lost its way, and this is only the latest example, view. I don't know if you agree with me. It has totally lost the capacity to differentiate between genuine criticism of the government's actions and this adolescent sniping to somehow show up Modi. The release of the Indian Navy veterans from a Qatari prison comes months after what is seen as a new dawn in India-Qatar relations. This is the same country, remember, that not very long ago had rallied virtually the entire Islamic world against India following the infamous Nupur Sharma episode. We will perhaps never know what finally led to the release. Nothing in such matters is ever free. But the release comes as only the latest chapter in the book that shows up a fraudulent brigade in India's commentariat, politics and civil society and social media, of course, so possessed by their irritation and annoyance over one man that they are no longer able to credibly differentiate between opposing and exposing their true selves. Now I'd like to tell you exactly what happened. And let me say this very clearly and very plainly, viewer, because we don't try and soften language, we don't try to sweeten language. This was a big diplomatic victory for India. Qatar has released 8 ex-Indian Navy personnel who were arrested in the Arab state in 2022 on charges of espionage. The 8 Indian Navy officials who were detained in Qatar are Commander Purnendu Tiwari, Captain Navtej Singh Gill, Captain Birendra Kumar Verma, Captain Saurabh Vashisht, Commander Amit Nagpal, Commander Sugunakar Parkala, Commander Sanjeev Gupta and Sailor Ragesh. They were sentenced to death last year, and now India has secured their release. In December last year, a Qatari court reversed the death penalty of the 8 Indian Navy personnel who were arrested in the Al Dahra global case, where they were accused of international espionage. Now, these 8 former Indian Navy personnel worked for a private company, and they were legally contracted as consultants with the Qatari military. These veterans have now returned to Delhi from death to Desh Vapsi in just a matter of a few weeks. Not surprisingly, they've thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his intervention in this issue. Take a look.
वाकई बहुत खुशी हो रही है कि वापस इंडिया पहुंच गए हम सेफ एंड साउंड, और डेफिनेटली ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर श्री मोदी को धन्यवाद करना चाहेंगे कि उनके पर्सनल इंटरवेंशन से ये पॉसिबल हुआ, और गवर्नमेंट ऑफ कतार के हिज एक्सेलेंसी द अमीर को कि उन्होंने ये होने दिया, एंड बस यही बोलना चाहेंगे. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Without the intervention of Prime Minister Modi, it wouldn't be. आज हम आपके सामने खड़े नहीं हो रहे होते अगर intervention नहीं होता at that level, highest level. And especially Government of India, उनके अथक प्रयास से कि वो consistently लगे रहे, and we are there in front of you. Thank you.
Same thing. Very thankful to the government and Prime Minister Modi कि हम लोग बाहर आ सके और वापस अपने कंट्री में आ सके. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Let's have 3 cheers for India. Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! Thank you.
बस ये कहना चाहेंगे कि ये वाले दिन का हम बहुत दिनों से वेट कर रहे थे, और प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी और उनका पर्सनल इंटरवेंशन, उनका इंटरेक्शन, और एक और मौका लेना चाहता हूं कि थैंक करूंगा अमीर को कतर के, जिनके उनके इंटरेक्शन के कारण आज हम यहां खड़े हैं, जिस दिन का हमें बहुत बेसब्री से इंतजार था.
We are grateful for their return. We are gratified on their return. We deeply appreciate the decision of the Qatari government and the Amirs to release them. We are happy to have 7 of those Indian nationals back. 8th Indian national has also been released, and we continue to work with the Qatar government to see how quickly his return to India would be. Honorable Prime Minister has himself personally, constantly supervised all the developments in this case, and has never shied away from any initiatives that would ensure the return of Indian nationals back to home.
नेवी वेटरन्स को जिस प्रकार से वापस लाया गया, वो भारत सरकार के विशेष प्रयासों का एक नतीजा है. घर वापसी और राष्ट्र के साथ साथ विश्व भर में हिंदुस्तानी कहीं भी रहे उनके हितों का संरक्षण करना, ये नरेंद्र भाई की प्राथमिकता रही है. और कतर से जो लौटे हैं भारत, उन नेवी वेटरन्स का हम सब कृतज्ञता की भावना से स्वागत करते हैं.
वैसे लोग जो देश के लिए लड़ने मिटने वाले लोग, जिन पर गलत आरोप लगाए गए थे और उनको कतार में फांसी की सजा दे दी गई थी, लेकिन हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के उस कूटनीतिज्ञ के कारण, हमारी सरकार की विदेश कूटनीतिज्ञ का परिणाम और प्रधानमंत्री जी के प्रभुत्व का प्रभाव है कि आज हमारे 8 के 8 भाई वहां से मुक्त होकर के आ गए हैं. उसके लिए मैं उन्हें, उनके परिवार को, पूरे देशवासियों को बधाई देता हूं कि हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी का एक कुशल मार्गदर्शन मोदी है तो मुमकिन है.
कि सबसे पहले तो मैं कहूंगा प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी का बहुत बहुत आभार. मोदी है तो मुमकिन है। आज से 45 दिन पहले इनकी फांसी की सजा को उम्र कैद में बदल दिया गया था और अब भारत के नौसैनिक अधिकारियों को उनको वापस यहाँ पर लाकर एक दिखाया है कि हर एक जान की कीमत, हर भारतीय की जान की कीमत है।
And just a few days before this big diplomatic win, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had spoken to India Today's Rahul Kanwal about just how important India's ties with the Arab states are concerned. Very, very important. Listen carefully to what Dr. S. Jaishankar says. This achievement today will make a whole lot more sense. Listen.
What do you rate as the #1 achievement of foreign policy in these 10 years? Do you think the kind of ties that Prime Minister Modi has been able to build with the Gulf Arab countries would rank as your #1 achievement, or how would you see it?
I would say the #1 achievement is the people of India today realize that foreign policy matters to them, and Prime Minister Modi's government and Prime Minister personally in many ways, I mean, what's different about him is you can have a vision. He has the ability to take a vision and bring it, translate it to the ground reality. We have actually shown people how a good foreign policy can bring benefits to them. The fact that you travel abroad, millions of Indians travel abroad. I can say confidently people travel in a more secure, confident manner than they did before, knowing that we have their backs. If you look at the last 10 years, we actually, Prime Minister got us to not just create a fund but actually develop it over a period of time. So more than I'd say 3.2 lakh Indians in various difficult situations have actually drawn on that fund. Or you had cases like Operation Ganga in Ukraine. I mean, there are many. We just had one, Ajay in Israel, or Kaveri in Sudan. So I would say a foreign policy that makes a difference to the lives of people, that to me is one very big change. Now that change manifests itself in different places. In the Gulf, yes, absolutely. I would say if there's one region which has undergone absolute sea change, it is actually India's relations with the Gulf.
And it's been revealed now that after completing his UAE visit that begins tomorrow, on February the 14th, Prime Minister Modi will be traveling to Qatar on the same day, on the 14th of February in the afternoon. Prime Minister Modi, after UAE, will be visiting Qatar for a few hours. During that visit, he will be holding a bilateral meet with Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad, the Amir of Qatar, and other high dignitaries of the country, from where 8 Indian prisoners have just been released, thanks wholly to India's big diplomatic effort. Listen in to the Foreign Secretary announcing it today.
Honorable Prime Minister will travel to Doha, Qatar on 14th February afternoon. During the visit, Prime Minister will hold bilateral meetings with the Amir of Qatar, His Highness Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and other high dignitaries in Qatar. The bilateral relationship between India and Qatar that has been steadily growing includes a comprehensive span, including political ties, trade and investment linkages, our strong energy partnership. Prime Minister's visit to Qatar will provide an opportunity for the top leadership of the two countries to discuss ways to further deepen and strengthen our multifaceted partnership, as well as exchange views on different regional and international issues of mutual importance.
Let's go straight across now to India Today's Akshita Nandagopal, joining us live from the United Arab Emirates, where she's tracking the Prime Minister's visit, which kicks off tomorrow. Gaurav, I want to come to you first, though. The Prime Minister will be spending a few hours in Qatar as well. Right after this huge diplomatic victory, what significance does this hold, in your opinion, Gaurav?
This is an extremely significant visit. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, since he took over as Prime Minister in 2014, has invested very heavily diplomatically in our relationship with the entire West Asian region. Extremely close to the leadership, whether it's in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia. And when you talk about UAE, his 7th visit to the United Arab Emirates. And this just goes on to show how deeply the leaders are invested in each other. His 8th interaction with the president of the United Arab Emirates, his 2nd visit to Doha, Qatar since 2016, the meeting that secured the release of our 8 Indian Navy personnel, 7 are back home, the 8th hopefully would be back home soon. All of that goes on to show that there is a lot of relationship which is not just business to business, people to people. It's also very close at the level of our foreign office, our national security advisors, and at the level of the heads of government and state. Now, that is the key factor which helps make that extra push when push comes to shove, Shiv.
Very, very interesting. Akshita, you've landed in the Arab world on the day when India scored this huge diplomatic victory, and also just a few days after Dr. S. Jaishankar had told India today how our relations with the Arab world, are probably most paramount. It's something that the government and the Prime Minister takes very seriously. What's the buzz you're sensing right after where you are? The inauguration of the mandir over there, Akshita, the Prime Minister will actually be making a whistle stop in Qatar itself.
That's right, Shiv. Good evening to you and to all of our viewers. I'm joining you live from right outside the BAP Swaminarayan Mandir here in Abu Dhabi. And I think this is a standing testament to really what the Modi government's diplomacy here in the Middle East has been all about. Soon after he inaugurates this temple is when he's going to be making his way to Qatar. And that's a last-minute addition to his itinerary, essentially, because we did know that tomorrow, once he touches down here in the United Arab Emirates, he's going to be a part of a mega Indian diaspora event, a series of bilaterals, important meetings lined up. Day after, he'll be here at the temple and then making his way to Qatar. As you pointed out, he's going to be in a bilateral with the Amir of Qatar. So it's been that personal intervention, Shiv, that's really made that difference. For example, here also in Abu Dhabi, the fact that this temple reportedly has been constructed with personal intervention from the government, and the fact that Prime Minister Modi's made it a point to be here, as Gaurav pointed out. The Prime Minister's been here 6 times before. His 7th visit this time is going to be one that's truly historic, with this temple behind me being also unveiled. The fact that you have the largest Hindu temple anywhere outside of India here in the United Arab Emirates, in the Arab world itself, speaks volumes of what the Modi government and what the Modi diplomacy plan is all about. They've put the focus several times on the Middle East, on kind of changing the narrative and ensuring India has great ties with the Middle East. They've succeeded with that with the UAE. They've succeeded with that with Qatar as well. And that's clearly an indicator based on what really has happened in the last 24 hours. Who would have thought, Shiv, in December 2023, when you had the Prime Minister meeting with the Amir of Qatar, you had weeks later the announcement coming that the death penalty was commuted. And even at that point, many of us were keeping our fingers crossed, not sure of how this would develop or what would happen. But for them to actually be released back home today is nothing short of a monumental achievement, and something that shows that the Prime Minister's focus on bettering relations here in the Middle East is actually working and transforming things.
Incredibly big news day that in many ways highlights everything that Akshita just said. India's relationship with the Arab world, the primacy of these relations, and how far the Modi government actually wants to take them. Akshita is going to be live from there in Abu Dhabi at 6 p.m. Don't miss her ground broadcast ahead of a very big temple inauguration by the Prime Minister himself tomorrow. Thanks very much, Akshita and Gaurav, for joining me on the latest on this story.